Hey guys, and thanks for tuning in to this session. For the next half an hour or so, we're going to be talking about SEO and how you can rank your website in 2018 and moving into 2019. Okay, so firstly, a bit about me. My name's Ben. I'm the founder of B2B Metric. We're a B2B SEO company, and we help businesses increase their visibility in search engines in order to drive things like more leads for the sales team, more leads for the sales team, and bottom line growth, and all of that good stuff. So, firstly, what is SEO? SEO is the process of ranking your website at the top of search engines when people type in related queries in places such as Google related to your product or service. So, for example, we're an SEO agency based in Surrey. So, ideally, we want to rank at the top for terms such as Surrey SEO, like this. And in doing so, becomes a great channel for our business, a great marketing channel for our business, and it allows us to generate leads all the time through this. So, why should you care about SEO? Apart from obviously ranking at the top and driving leads, in B2B, over 71% of decisions start with a Google search. Out of these 71%, between 80 and 90% of those people click through on an organic search result. So about 20% of people click through on the paid search results, which are these ones here at the top, the one you can see the ad next to, and 90% of people click through to the organic search. And finally, compared to the likes of LinkedIn and Facebook advertising, which is display advertising, people are actually looking for your product at the time they come across your ad in search engines. They're physically the highest intent traffic out there because at that moment in time they are looking for the product or service that you're selling. So if you can get in front of that user at that moment in time, it's a very, very valuable piece of real estate. So how does it work? SEO over the years is one of those topics which has got a little stigma around it, in the fact that everyone thinks it's a bit of a dark art, and no one has complete visibility on how it works. What we like to do at B2B Metric is break it down so it can be as tangible as possible. So we split it normally in campaigns into three key segments. You have technical SEO, which is how well Google can find and crawl your website. On-page SEO, which is all about choosing profitable keywords, and then once you've chosen those profitable keywords, how can you change the physical content and different aspects of your site in order to rank for those keywords and make your site relevant for those keywords. And finally, it's all about authority, and authority is a bit that everyone loves to hear about, which is all about the building links and actually making your website authoritative in your niche or in your space in order to raise your website through the rankings for certain keywords. So in this, and for the end of this presentation, we're going to be going through an audit and a working case study of a brand called SavvyCare. Now SavvyCare, quickly a bit about them, they're a home care software provider, so home care agencies use them to plan their resource, to schedule their staff and all of that stuff. Obviously their target market is home care agencies, and their objective, like every other company doing SEO's objective should be, is to increase their leads and increase their sales of their software. Because if you're not using SEO as a tool to drive your bottom line and increase leads, then it's not going to be an effective marketing channel, and money could be better spent elsewhere. So we haven't worked with SavvyCare previously, but we're going to do a snapshot of where they are now and potentially the steps they could go next in order to raise their rankings and increase sales and all that good stuff. So like I mentioned, technical SEO is the first pillar of the campaign structure we go through. So if we look at SavvyCare, the first thing we want to do is make sure, and this goes for all sites, that you want to make sure your site is indexed in Google search engine. We've seen it many times where a developer has been building a site or has been migrating a site, and then they've blocked Google's bots from crawling the site whilst it's being developed. But then once the site's finished, they don't remove those blocks. So what you want to do is make sure that your site's indexed first and foremost. To do this, you just type site, which is SITE, insert URL, which in our case is SavvyCare, into Google. Once you do that, it will then bring up this box here, and we can see for Savvy Care that 394 results appear in search engines, which sounds about right for them. So we can be confident in moving forward with our campaign that Google's actually picking up the pages on our website, which is great. So get a tick there. What does Google see? So once you've got your site indexed, it's really important to make sure that Google sees the same thing that the human eye sees. Obviously, Google's bots read in HTML and CSS, where obviously we see much more than that. So in order to make sure that Google can actually read your website, because sometimes there may be snips of JavaScript, for example, so those flip boxes that you hover over and they flip around and show you more text, they're JavaScript modules, and sometimes Google is unable to read those. So what you want to do is you want to go onto the URL you can see here, so google.com/webmasters/tools. You can then go on crawl, fetch as Google, and then enter your relevant page. And once you've rendered that page, you can bring up an image like you can see on the right hand side here, and it will show you exactly how Google sees your page. Now if this page comes up and it has blurry bits, or it has white space and bits missing, then you know that Google can't necessarily read certain elements or sort of divs of your page. So you might have to go back, talk to a developer, and look about reworking some of the elements to make sure that Google can read your page, so therefore it can, allocate it the right context and start to rank it for the correct keywords. Okay, next on HTTPS versus HTTP. So when you go onto a website, at the top left hand corner, you'll either see a padlock, which is the HTTPS version, with a secure version of the website, or you'll see an exclamation mark, that's the HTTP version of the website. Now, the difference is that the HTTPS version has something called an SSL certificate, and the SSL certificate encrypts the data between the web browser and the website, which means technically it makes it much harder for hackers to go into a website, for example like an e-commerce website, and steal your users' data they've input on your website. So now in 2018, having this SSL certificate is actually a ranking factor, so you'll start to see that blogs and pages and websites which have an SSL are going to rank higher than their counterparts without. And also there's going to be the worry that Google might start marking your website as not secure. So sometimes when you click on websites that don't have an SSL certificate and are still at the HTTP version, that Google will start having a big pop-up which says, are you sure you want to continue? This website may not be that secure. So we can see here that Savvy Care have that as well, which is great. So is your website slow? So this is another ranking factor in 2018. Google's starting to put more emphasis on how slow your website is. So obviously you're going to start seeing faster websites be promoted, whereas slow websites may start to be demoted in their positions and their rankings. But also, as well as the actual stat and the page speed itself being a ranking factor, what research has found that is if a page takes more than 3 seconds to load, it starts to lose up to 50% of its visitors. And what that shows is, say if you type in a relevant search term, someone clicks on your website, it doesn't load and they bounce straight off your page, Google's going to take that as a negative behavioural signal, being like, okay, maybe this page isn't highly relevant to users typing in the search query. So as well as being penalised for having a slow page from a technical perspective, you're also going to be penalised from a behavioural perspective from Google, thinking people aren't finding your content relevant. So it's sort of like a two-pronged penalty, as it were. To check your page speed, you can go to this URL here, which is developers.google.com/speed, and then you can enter your URL. On the right hand side, you'll see the displays that you get. So desktop here for Savvy Care, really good, nearly perfect. But with mobile, they could end up, it's only a 42 out of 100, so they can do it, optimizing a few things on their site in order to make that a bit faster. So if we look into how you can speed up your site, here are a couple of key points which we normally start with. There are several other methods as well, but these are some of the key ones which we like to implement first and foremost. So how to speed up your site, part one, you want to decrease the size of your images. So in that report that you run in Google, it will show you how big some of the images are on your website. So we can see here that one of Savvy Care's main banner images, which is the guy there, is over 2 megabytes. What we say and how you can still keep the quality of your image, but with having it as small as possible, is that images should be around 100 kilobytes at the most. So what you do to go through and try and optimize your site, especially for mobile, would be to resize those images and re-upload them, still keep the quality, but it won't be as heavy on the server to load, and go through that list of all the ones that are, over 1,000 kilobytes, definitely. Anything hopefully over 100 kilobytes, go through and make those smaller, because they don't need to be any bigger than that. You can obviously do that by readjusting it in things like Photoshop, or once you've done that, to take things a bit further, you can download a plugin if you're using WordPress called WP Smush, and it's just a compression piece of software which tries to make your images as small as possible, because it's one of the biggest things which causes lag on your website. The second way of doing it, of speeding up your website, which is we find very popular and we try to implement across the board, is implementing a CDN. Now, a CDN pretty much takes a snapshot of your website and it caches it in different servers around the world. So say, for example, if someone in Australia wants to look at someone in the UK's website which is hosted in the UK, rather than his computer sending the request to the server all the way in the UK, there will be a cached version of the website in a server in Australia, for example. So it'll be much quicker for it to load on his computer. Now this caching is just sort of an example of how it works. It's sort of updated in real time, so don't be worried about them getting an old version of your website or anything. So you can use things like Cloudflare, which I think they have a free version of a CDN, which you can get your developers to look at to implement. But most other hosting providers, they actually have their own software, their own CDN software, which you can look at implementing, sometimes for free if you have a decent hosting provider. So yeah, pretty much just reduces the distance between the visitor and your website server. That's as simple as it is. So technical summary. So if we do a quick recap, there's hundreds of other ranking factors with regard to technical SEO, but the key ones at which we see the most mistakes on, and which are could be detrimental to your website, is making sure 1, is your website indexed? So check that first. 2, can your site be read by search engines? Very important. 3, is it secured with HTTPS? Because that's a ranking factor. And is your website load faster than 3 seconds? If not, look at reducing the size of the images and look at implementing things like a content delivery network. Okay, and if you do all of that, then you're in pretty good stead to sort of move on to the next steps. So once you've looked at technical SEO, it's time to move on to the on-page SEO, and first and foremost, it's the keyword research. Now, keywords are pretty much the keyword or phrase which people type into Google, which you want to associate and bring up your product in Google's results page. So, for example, if we type in home care software, we'd want Savvy Care to come up in top of the rankings. Now, I'm not going to go through how to find profitable keywords in this presentation, because that's the whole topic on itself. But the 2 things you want to look out for when finding a profitable keyword are: 1, you want to make sure that the keyword, especially if it's for a product page, has high intent. And by high intent, I mean that person is in the frame of mind to buy something from you in that moment. So for example, if I type in home care software into Google and it brings up product pages from competitors, I know that's high intent, because Google has seen from historic searches that people have typed in that term and have gone onto product pages and they found what they're looking for. If I typed in home care software and it brought up blogs like, these people use home care software and this was the result, for example, I can see that's less intense searches, because they've brought up a blog, which necessarily means that people are looking for more information, not necessarily looking to buy straight away. So the first one is make sure it's high intent. The second one is make sure there's search volume. There's no point in optimizing your website for a keyword which has very little or no search volume, because it's not the best use of your time and resource, and also it means no one's going to find your website if they type it, because no one's typing that search query into Google or other search engines. So let's have a look at a couple of examples for Savvy Care. So Savvy Care already rank for things like home care software. Their number position 25. There's roughly 250 searches per month. Home health care software, is position 57, and there's around 200 searches per month. And home care scheduling software, position 26, and 100 searches per month. So there's a lot more, and there's many more keywords they could be ranking for as well. This is just a snippet of some they currently are ranking for, and we can see here how credible the SEO can become as a channel, because these 3 searches are high intent. These are home care agencies physically looking for software, and between them is about 550 searches per month. So we actually look at thinking, if they can rank, in the top 3 for these searches, or get the lion's share of those, even if they only end up, converting, and getting interest from 2% of that 550, we're still looking at roughly, 11 people per month potentially interested off the back of our SEO efforts on this very small section of work. So it's just sort of give you a broad overview of how SEO works as a channel and the power it has to drive really relevant, highly qualified traffic to your website and your product pages. So once you've selected your keywords, it's all about going through and optimizing your website for those keywords. So by optimizing your site, this is physically the content on your website you can change, everything from URL structure to meta descriptions and all that other good stuff. But what we're going to cover in this section is some of the key elements which not everyone thinks about when it comes to actually optimizing your site, and where we see most of the pitfalls and the bottlenecks and the mistakes from some of our clients. So header tags. Header tags are the main title of each page. They're the main thing that both search engines and users look at when entering your website. And there's 2 frequent problems we see with these main headers. Is the one, it's unclear what the service or product is at just a quick glance at looking at it. And the second one is the fact that the text isn't HTML, so Google can't read it. It's actually part of the image. So Google has a very hard time reading what that main product title tag is. Yeah. So it's one of the things you really need to prioritize and work on. So if we look at the Savvy Care example, they have a beautifully designed banner here, obviously done very professionally. The issue is, and anyone involved with the project will know what Get Savvy to Deliver Superior Care means. But if you're new to the website and it's a landing page, it may not exactly explain what the software is at first glance. So what we recommend doing is, 1, including your primary keyword in the main title. So you can see our website on the right hand side here. Welcome to Surrey's leading SEO agency. There's nothing ambiguous about that at all. It's just, what it says on the tin, and it's as clear as possible. If you want to add any catchphrases, like Savvy Care do have, you can add them to a secondary title, or you can add them a bit further down the page. But when you actually come to your main title, it's really important to actually make it as clear as possible. Include your primary keyword for Google, but then also try something that we call the 5-second test with family and friends. Now, the 5-second test is all about when you take a family member or a friend who has not been involved with the project, you show them the landing page or the home page or whatever page you've been working on, and if they look at it for 5 seconds and then look away and they can't tell you what the content of that page is going to be, then you're going to want to start look at reworking that page and the wording and everything, just so you know that when users have little context about what you sell, that they're going to get a better picture of what it is. Yeah, they're a really good benchmark. It's very easy to be involved with the project and think that everyone else is going to know what your catchphrase or what this slightly ambiguous wording is going to mean. So it's one of the things we normally get people to work on. Secondly, like I mentioned, is the fact that people sometimes hide their main header images in text. We can see here with Savvy Care, like I said, really nicely designed. But the issue with that is that's not physical HTML. That's an image. So that's text within the image. So Google isn't able to actually read that properly, apart from the alt tag. So what we recommend is actually having it as H1. Now you can either get software, which you can like Screaming Frog or Ahrefs, which you can put your website in and it'll come back and tell you which pages are missing the main H1 or the header tags. That's one option. You can ask your developer to go through and make sure that they can amend those, and they can give you those header tags. Or the final option is the quick option, which we like, and if you're a marketing manager you can just go through and do quickly, is to go onto your key pages, and you can actually go and right click on where the main title is, go onto inspect element, and then hover over the text, and then it will bring up, you can see there, that purple H1. If that's not there, or you can't actually physically hover over the text itself, then more likely than not it's part of the image and it's not text. So two important things: make sure it's obvious what the product page is from the H1 text, and the second one is make sure that it's actually text, not part of the image. Okay, next, alt tags. I touched on this briefly, but what we want to do is make sure that all images, just to give further context to Google on the page, is make sure that all images have a naming convention in itself. So by that I mean, when Google crawls and sees an image, it can't always or yet read what the image is. So these alt tags stands for alternate text, which means that Google reads this text rather than looking at the image. So if you go through and be really descriptive with what your image is, they'll be like, okay, that's really related to the product or service they're selling, and it just gives it more context and it's more likely to rank. So if you have main images that you're using, then I'd recommend using like variations in your keyword and all that good stuff. So finally, LSI keywords. Now, LSI keywords, it stands for latent semantic indexing. It's pretty much a mathematical concept between determining the relationship between concepts and content. In plain English, it's just a fancy word for synonyms. Now, back in the day, if you were looking to rank for a certain keyword like home care software, you would go to the bottom of the page, write home care software, 1,000 times, highlight that text, turn it white so no one could see it, but then Google would read it and crawl your bot back in 2011, and they'd be like, this page is seriously relevant because it's the density, the keyword density or what it's called, is really, really high. It's like 10% of the page has the exact keyword. Now, these days, if you use the exact keyword too many times with recent algorithm upgrades, it's seen as a spam signal. So instead of using the exact keyword, you want to use things called these LSI keywords or synonyms. And the best thing about these LSI keywords is that Google, you haven't got to guess what they are. Google actually shows you what they are and what it already relates to those key terms. So for Savvy Care, if we want to actually go into and start putting LSI keywords on their main page, their product page for home care software, all you have to do is type home care software into Google, click enter, scroll to the bottom, and on the right hand side of this page you can see search related to home care software. So we can see here things like care planner software, home care scheduling software, domiciliary, I think that's how you say it, care call monitoring system. So these are all terms which Google has already related to the home care software itself. So if you can put these in secondary headers on the page or sprinkle them throughout the page, then Google's going to give your page even higher relevance than before, and it's going to really get to understand what the contents of your page is, giving it all the more chance to rank higher in search engines. So if we have a quick recap, so does each of your product page have a target keyword? That's very important to make sure that you know what you're optimizing your page for and if the keyword is profitable or not. Do you have header tags that include your keyword, and do they pass the 5-second test with friends or family? Do you have relevant alt tags? And do you have LSI keywords sprinkled about your page, the synonyms which I showed you how to get sprinkled out throughout your page? If so, then, like I mentioned at the beginning, there are other things, including things like URL structure, meta descriptions, all that other good stuff. But these are some of the key pitfalls that we see people falling into with their page and the on-site optimization. So we've now gone through the technical and the on-page SEO. The final pillar I want to focus on is the building of authority around a couple of creative backlink strategies. So building authority through links. So backlinks are simply hyperlinks from a third-party website which link back to your website. So say if you have two companies side by side which have the exact same amount and the same level of technical optimization and on-site optimization, but one of those websites has a link from Huffington Post or Forbes or another website in its niche, then that website with the link is going to rank above its counterpart website just because it has that link. Now, the link is all about it being passed authority from other authoritative sites to that site. It's like a vote of confidence that another site thinks that your content is valid and worthwhile. So there's a lot of spam out there on the web. So if you can get voted for or vouched for from like an authoritative website, then Google's going to start trusting you more and promoting your content. And after you've done all your technical and on-page SEO, getting backlinks accounts for probably roughly 80% of the different variables or the factors which is going to actually rank you up Google search result pages for your targeted keywords. So one of the biggest questions we normally get for people doing it in-house is how can we build these links? As an agency in ourselves, we have relationships with lots of different publishers, so in different niches. So if we're looking to build links, we can reach out to them and we can work out, what content they're looking for, agreements, and how, we can get them to link to our clients' sites. But if you're actually looking at bringing it in-house, there's a couple of key things which we can recommend, which you can get you started in building these relationships. So the first one, we call it stealing, in inverted commas, competitors' links. So it's a 5-step process to do this. The first one is you want to type your keyword into Google. So for Savvy Care, that would be home care software. Select one of the top ranking websites, so they're already ranking well, so you want to see what's going on with them. You want to enter the URL into a tool like Ahrefs, SEMrush, or Moz. Once you've done that, I think Ahrefs has a free trial, SEMrush has a free trial. I'm not sure if Moz does. I recommend Ahrefs. It's really good, and their backlink portfolio is great. So once you put that URL into Ahrefs, it will show you all of the links which are pointing to your competitor's website. And in this case, for Savvy Care, we know these links are going to be good because that competitor is ranking at the top of Google. So once you've seen whether you get their links, you go step up to step 5, see if you can replicate those links, or you want to see what content of your competitor is gaining the most links and see if you can steal those links. So for example, with the Savvy Care example, we saw that one of their top competitors had 2 main articles which was acquiring most of their links. So one of these articles was on home care marketing, and they had 15 referring domains, so links from 15 unique websites, and that piece of content was created in 2014. Yeah, they all had another one from top complaints from home care clients, again relevant for them. There were 11 referring domains from 11 unique websites made in 2013. So what we do, and Brian Dean coined this the skyscraper effect, is we take home care marketing, which has obviously moved on since 2014 when this piece of content was created. We'd create a 2018/2019 version of home care marketing, which was more in depth, and it was a better read than theirs. And then what we'd do is we'd reach out to these 15 people who obviously cared enough to link out to this piece of content initially, and update them that we've got a superior piece of content. And you'd be surprised that these webmasters, how much these webmasters are receptive to actually looking and altering their text in order to give their readers the best experience. So they can give their readers better resource, then they're going to link to the better resource. So it's all about going on, finding what your competitors are ranking well for, replicating it, making it better, and then asking people that are referring to the old content to now link to yours. So that's one creative backlinking strategy we like to recommend. The other one is all about guest posting, but guest posting with a twist. Now, you've probably used PR agencies or tried to outsource guest posting before, try to do it yourself, but you realise that you might find someone who's willing to accept a guest post. You write 1,000 to 1,500 words. You post it on their site, you don't get any referral traffic, might not even get a backlink, and sometimes, or most of the time, that blog is like, okay, we want exclusivity, you can't post this content anywhere else, so you've got all this sunken cost and time into creating this resource, but you haven't got much out of it. What we like to do is we like to scale. We looked into a way of scaling both the processes. So finding opportunities to guest post, first off, we recommend typing things like your keyword plus guest posted by into search engines. For example, for the Savvy Care, we did home care plus guest posted by. You can see on the right hand side that it's brought up some great opportunities. Blogs that have accepted guest posts before, like scottishcare.org, mylifesite.net, and careforthecaregiver.me, which is just a handful that we could fit on a screenshot. So once we've got this big list of people that we know have previously accepted guest posts because they've got guest posted by in the text somewhere, we then, once we've collected that information, we then look at thinking, what can we outreach these people? I don't want to write 10 unique guest posts. That's going to, I'm never going to leave my computer. So what we did is we looked at what people were doing out there and different methods, and infographics were an interesting one because with just the written word in blogs, people want exclusivity, but with infographics, people are very happy to regurgitate and repost infographics and that are being posted elsewhere. So if you want to go and for Savvy Care, for example, create an infographic around home care marketing techniques, the 10 best home care marketing techniques, and then you can outreach these to those list of prospects we've seen here on the right. What happens 9 times out of 10 is these people are happy to accept infographics, but then again, they're also happy for you to pitch them to other people. We tried it last year. We did a big experiment about infographics, and we found that the more authoritative people who posted our infographics, like Marketing Profs, Smart Insights, LinkedIn blog, for example, if we mentioned that those people already posted our infographic, other people were actually more likely to post our infographic as well. So it gave it credibility, which is strange how they won't let you repost written word, but infographics, they're fine to use regurgitated content. So it's a nice, easy way to scale, because once you create this one asset, you can reuse it, to gain several links. And to make things even better, when you outreach and say, we've got this infographic which is relevant to your readership, just say to them that you're happy to write a custom introduction, and in that custom introduction you can write 150 to 250 words, and in that introduction include that link back to your asset or to your product page or whatever you're trying to rank for. So you control that, and then they like it on their side because they physically haven't got to do any work. They've got an awesome infographic they can post, and they've also got a unique bit of introduction text which they didn't have to text that they didn't have to write. So it's a win-win all around. So back on the example of our case study last year, just to sort of show you that this works, it's just a small handful. I think we got about 30 links in the end to our infographic. But on our B2B metrics site, and how we ranked #1 for thorough SEO, or one of the pieces of the puzzle, is we created an infographic around conversion rate optimization. We reached out to Smart Insights, they posted it. You can see the 16 simple ways to get higher infographic conversion rates. We then reached out to Marketing Profs that said Smart Insights had posted it. They were like, yep, send it over with the introduction. Then Word Tracker picked it up organically. Again, a massive, really good site with a backlink. Advantgate, I think, picked it up organically off the back of it as well. Harris and Mann, there's a few other ones. And there was LinkedIn's blog picked it up. We pitched it to them. So it's like, the more it gets out there, the more credibility the infographic gets. And it's a weird product, and it's quite sticky, the fact that people don't mind using it and reusing it. So create yourself a great infographic and it'll pay for itself 10 times over. And finally, one of the big questions we get around building links is, should we build links to our product page or should we build links to our blog pages? Now what we say is, it's come to a stage where it doesn't look very natural to build links to your product pages, because why would a website like Forbes or another big blog in your niche be incentivized to link to your product page unless you're paying them? And obviously Google's guidelines say you can't pay for links because it's a spam. It's sort of like a spam factor, and it's something that can get you blacklisted quite easily if they find out. So what we recommend doing is we recommend building assets like the infographics, building links to those infographics from the big publishers, and then internally linking from that infographic page to your product page. Yeah, and then that way you're going to get all the authority from that website post linking to your blog, but then it's going to funnel all the authority from that blog to that product page, and we call this siloing, which is internal linking. So you can see here at the bottom with all the publications pointing to our blog posts, and our blog posts are pointing to the Savvy Care product page. And in doing that, we're able to funnel the equity, the link equity we call it, through from the publications to our blog post and then to the product page. And that's how you're going to slowly see the rise in your rankings for your certain keywords for those pages. The more links, the more authority, and you can funnel it through to your product page. So I think that's everything from me. We do have more backlinking strategies. We've used tens of different strategies over the years. It doesn't sound very impressive, but there's not more than probably about 25 different linking strategies we've used, and we recycle a lot of them and create new unique ones for some brands. But if you ever want to get in touch, you can get in contact with me at ben@b2bmetric.com, and we'd be happy to sort of talk about link building strategies which you guys could potentially implement for your companies which work well. So I hope you found this useful, and any questions, please do feel free to email me. Okay, thanks guys, bye.